And we are live in Lab Coat Agents. Man, I tell you what, I think people are using less Zoom now, or Zoom figured their stuff out because I swear we're going live like this nowadays. For those of you live on the Facebook, welcome, Lab Coat Agents. For those of you in Zoom, welcome. We are back. I think what did we take a week off, Nick, from business videos?
Well, kind of two, because we did a webinar specifically for brokers 2 weeks ago. So it's actually been, I think, 3 weeks since we did one of these. Yeah.
Awesome. So welcome back, and we are back to talk more video content today. For those of you that are whoa, time out. Wait a second. Look who joined us.
Hey there, guys.
We just got done telling everybody you weren't going to be here, Tristan.
I made it, man.
Welcome, buddy.
Got some tea. We're good.
Good.
Awesome. So for anybody who's on Zoom, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat. We will do our best to respond. Tristan and I will be responding. Maybe we're typing our responses. Otherwise, we are just going to dive right in. And today, Nick, we are going to be talking about the do's and the don'ts for creating live videos. And before you get started, Nick, I just want to let everybody know that if you are not integrating live videos into your social strategy, you need to be. It's super important for the algorithm. And so you're going to learn a lot today. With that said, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you, brother.
All right, good stuff. Well, let me get my slides up and running. So there's always, a little bit of logistical things to get going here real quick. So give me 2 seconds. All right, should be ready to go.
Excited to see what you got, man.
Yeah, sorry. So I don't mean to build up the tension here. I'm just making sure I'm on the right. You don't want to be on the wrong tab when you open things up, right? I don't want to confuse anybody. So.
That's true. All
right, cool. Well, here we go. So yeah, we thought we'd do. I think this one will be a lot of fun. There's going to be a few of these that I think are going to be pretty strict, hardcore rules. The do's and don'ts of Facebook Live. Although I think a lot of these are going to apply to any kind of live video you're doing. And then there's a couple of them that might be, a little bit more of an opinion. I think Jeff and I might have differing opinions on one or two of these. So it'll be interesting to hear the debate, and you guys can decide which one of us you think are right on these. So anyway, quick overview for you on what we are going to be covering today here on the left-hand side of the screen. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about what you should and should not do while you are live, and even some of the things you should do before and after you're live or not do. We're going to talk about some useful Facebook Live settings. So there might be a few buttons, kind of little tips and tricks in there that you haven't noticed before. We're talking about how to add branding with Facebook frames. So if you saw either my or Jeff's promotional video for this webinar, you actually saw an example of this Facebook frame, which is really cool and actually not nearly as hard to create as you might think. And then we're also going to talk about just some quick tips for improving your live video, including some software options. So we get a lot of questions in the business video school all the time about how do you shoot your training videos? How do you create, the picture-in-picture, and how do you do transitions and things like that, especially when you're live? And there actually are several pieces of software, some of which are free, that will help you do some of that. So just before we moved on, we have been getting a lot of questions over the past couple months about Business Video School. And so I just want to mention, these webinars are always meant to be obviously very educational, very value-driven, but video is a vast, vast topic. There's all kinds of things that we just simply don't have time to cover in, 45 to 60 minutes. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you're also seeing some of the additional things that we do teach our students in Business Video School. So if you've been curious at all and you haven't heard much about what we're doing there, I'm not even going to read it, but just so you get kind of a quick idea of what we do cover in a lot of the courses and the workshops and the interviews that we do. We got something new pretty much every single day. So it just gives you kind of an idea of what additional stuff you could learn by being a part of that. All right, so we're going to get straight into it. We got a bunch of slides, a bunch of do's, a bunch of don'ts. We're basically going to swap back and forth between the two of them. So I'm going to start with this one because this is one of the ones that I think I see mess up the most live videos of anything out there, right? And it's that you should prepare more than you would think. And I would argue that live video, you should be preparing more for a live video than a pre-recorded video, okay? I mean, think about it this way. When you do a pre-recorded video, the traditional video, you can make mistakes and then you can either start over, you can edit them out later. You actually have multiple options for dealing with mistakes. So I've actually had a lot of pre-recorded videos where I have a couple bullet points or ideas of what I want to talk about, and I'll turn the camera on and I'll sort of riff and I'll go, hey, I didn't like that. I'm going to start over, and I'll do it several times. Well, I've learned this the hard way. Do not do that with a live video, all right? Because if you are not prepared and you don't know, you don't have to know word for word. I'm not saying you need a word for word script, but you got to know what you're going to talk about ahead of time. You do need to be prepared, right? So you want to know exactly what you're going to say at the beginning. I think starting with a hook is really important here. And you might think, oh, well, maybe nobody's on watching it live, but this video is going to exist on your profile for forever unless you delete it, right? So a lot of people are going to see it after the fact. So you still want to get straight to the point, right? You don't really start with like, hey guys, you don't want to make people kind of wait around at all. You really want to get to the point. You want to start with a hook. Make sure you have some points written down. And then one additional part of this kind of preparing correctly is I would even encourage you to rehearse what you're doing. So if you're going to be moving around, so for instance, one of my favorite kind of live videos to do is like, go out to the park or something like that. And just kind of walk around and talk to the camera, because I think it just creates a little bit more of a visual, kind of an eye-catching style of video. Make sure you practice some of that. Like I've had live videos where I was like trying to walk around here in my little at-home office / studio, and I like start tripping over things, which not good. It's probably entertaining. People are probably going to enjoy that to some degree. You may actually get more views if you do that. But if it's not something you want to do, you want to do a little bit of preparation so that you're ready to go for all of that. So have some structure. So in terms of kind of notes, what I'd recommend on that front is don't script it entirely, but at least have bullet points, right? So have your hook, what are you going to say right at the beginning? Have your close figured out. What are you going to say when the video ends? Because at some point, if you get lost and you get kind of flustered, just go straight to the close and end the video. At least you know how you're going to do that. And then just have some bullet points, right? Kind of have the main points that you want to hit throughout the video. Don't be afraid to have a notepad right in front of you, and don't be afraid to look at it, right? People don't expect you to be perfect with this stuff, but they are going to be frustrated if you're just droning on forever, or if it just seems like you didn't prepare at all for the video, because obviously they're giving you their time, right?
Nick, that's a good point. I want to interrupt you there, because you look at the presidents or leaders of the world, they all have something they're reading off of, and it's expected, right? Because they talk so much. So don't ever be afraid to have either a teleprompter or something written that you're looking down to as points, because that just means that you're prepared, and people expect that.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Yeah, one of my lifetime goals is to eventually read from one of those teleprompters that's like just a piece of glass floating in the audience, Like people don't ever, you don't think about that when you're watching those speeches, but those pieces of glass are actually where their script is being presented to them, right? So it's good stuff. All right, well, that's a do. So we started with a positive, right?
Hey, Nick, Nick, can I mention something about that too? Because I create videos about that, and this applies to live and on non-live videos. Nick mentioned, hey guys, that's like notorious. Another thing that everybody does is happy Monday or happy Saturday or whatever it is. And I'm gonna just say that I'm not saying it's gonna ruin your video, but you gotta remember, we talk about this in other video classes, that you have about 3 seconds to grab their attention. If you actually figure out how long it takes to say that, like you're gone right there. And I will tell you, I've got a lot of good colleague friends in the business that do a lot of video and still do that. And it drives me nuts. But the people that I see that lead in with a really good hook, like kind of create intrigue or give me a quick tease about what the video is going to be about, if you watch the comparison of those two videos, you will see you're more intrigued to watch the video with a quality intro. And so that's why we are so adamant about it, especially me. Because I so believe, and even when I'm doing a personal video about nothing business related, I still lead with a hook every single time. I just wanted to add to that, because I think it's really important.
Actually, we have
start paying attention.
A couple people are asking, like, what's an example of a good hook? So give us a hook you've used in one of your videos.
Okay, so the other day when I did a video about leading into this, it was about looking in the eye of the camera. And so instead of saying, hey guys, or instead of saying happy whatever day it was, I was intentionally looking over that was the meat of the video. And so I was looking intentionally not into the eye of the camera, and I started the video with, would you look, when you're talking to somebody in person, would you look at them over their shoulder, or do you look at them in the eyes? And so I just went straight to the point of what's my video. I asked a question basically. If you're standing in front of a property, for example, instead of, again, immediately introing yourself and saying you're standing in front of 123 Main Street, you lead with, you should see the in-ground swimming pool and this new listing that I have. Like, you're immediately creating intrigue for somebody to watch the video. And I'm trying to, there's literally everything that I do, and I would encourage, Tristan does a good job of this, Nick does a good job of it, just go stalk us. You'll see what we mean. You can go watch any of my videos on my Facebook page, and you'll see that I always lead with some sort of a hook, whether it's business or personal. I hope that helps. And if anybody has a question, like a specific example of a video you're doing, we'll create a hook for you right now. So just put it in the Q&A or the chat.
There you go. That's a nice offer. That's good. Yeah, and I think, just to kind of sum up what you were saying, Jeff, it's a question or a bold statement are both usually going to be really good hooks, right? So something like obviously related to the video. You don't want to ask a random question that's nothing to do with the topic, but generally those are going to get people's attention at the top, right?
And by the way, it doesn't have to be verbal. It can be visual too.
Right.
I mean, I did an intro once for a listing where I videoed myself in slow-mo dunking a basketball because the listing had a basketball hoop in front of the house. It's a visual hook to grab the attention of my audience. You can do both.
Very cool. All right. Well, moving on to the next one here. That was the do. So we have a don't that's, closely related. And this one, I know this is the one Jeff talks a lot about that drives him crazy, drives me crazy. I think it drives most of us crazy, which is the idea of waiting for more people to get on the live before you start presenting. I understand the logic there. You kind of want to build up an audience. It just, for one, you're probably not popular enough for that to really matter. No offense, but I mean, I'm not even popular enough. None of us, I think, are popular enough for that to really matter, because there's only so many people on Facebook at any given time. So by waiting around, you're just losing the early people, right? You're just upsetting. If I join your live video and you don't start delivering value right away, like Jeff said, 3 seconds, right? I'm going to be out. Guess what? You're not going to, in 3 seconds, get a bunch more people to join your live video. So what's a lot more effective is just get straight to it, right? Get right through your hook, get started into your content. And as people join, they're going to see that number of other people who are watching. And if there's other people watching, they're more likely to want to jump on and join it, right? So just keep an eye on that. The idea of like waiting for more people to join, I think, is one of the worst things that people do with live video. It's less common now. I think a lot of people have learned that lesson, but just wanted to make sure we address that, because that is definitely a big taboo, right? All right, so let's talk about another do. And this is one I mentioned at the top that I'm really excited to share with you, which is you should really consider using Facebook frames for branding reasons, all right? So what's really cool, a lot of people don't even know this exists, but there's a very simple tool on the back end of Facebook. You go to facebook.com/frames/manage, and then one more slash at the end, right? And it's going to pull this up. And what you can do here is you can actually create graphics, or well, you have to have the graphic ahead of time, but you can put graphics into the frame of the video. And then all it does is it creates a link. And so all you got to do is click that link, and it's going to open up your Facebook camera, and the frame is already loaded, right? So I can give this link to any of my business partners. They can, and Jeff actually used this this past week. You just click on it, it opens up your camera, and then you're ready to use it. The other thing is, once you've opened it one time, it should be available in your frame menu at the bottom of the screen, right? So again, if some of this doesn't sound familiar, this is stuff we cover obviously more in depth in the school, but the idea here is that you can put whatever you want on the screen, right? So this is just one example of one we did for this week. What we did is we put our logo up in the top corner, right? And then across the bottom of the video, we had this banner that said the do's and don'ts of Facebook Live, right? Lab Code Agents webinar. Think about how eye-catching that is, right? So this is something that if you've got the PNG image, so if you want to do the most basic version of this, just take your logo, right? Go to facebook.com/frame/manage, and then just use your logo. Put your logo in the corner, create a frame. It's a good way to practice all of this, right? If you want to make something a little bit more elaborate, you can use a tool called Canva. So it's just canva.com. It's a free graphic design tool. It's basically like taking over the graphic design world over the past 5 years. Super, super simple, user-friendly. What you want to do, though, is you want to make sure you create a .png image, all right? It's important that you use that kind of image because it can have a transparent background, right? So you can see on the screen in our little demo here, my logo has a transparent background, right? The graphic we put at the bottom, you can see the little phone sticking out in the corner, but everything around it is transparent, right? So you want to make sure you have that kind of image. But any image will work. It just will have a background, right? So you upload that, you put it in there. It's going to create a link for you. And then you've got these frames, right? So again, I would start super simple. I would just use your logo, upload it. And then when you have that link and you click on it, not only can you go live with these frames, but you can take pictures and you can also do pre-recorded video. So all of the things that you can do through the Facebook camera app, which is built into the Facebook app on your phone, you can use these frames for, right? So it's really cool. It's something that I don't think many people are utilizing right now. Start with branding and then think of other opportunities. I mean, you can use this to promote a nonprofit that you're a big fan of. You can do a holiday themed one, right? There's all kinds of stuff. And if you make an interesting frame, you can actually make them available to other people. So you could actually get to the point, you know, maybe be proactive, send a link out and say, hey, I made a 4th of July frame, just happens to have your logo in the corner. And some people might use it. They may make their own version of a video using your branding. So I think that one's really cool. That's definitely a do if you get the opportunity. Now, don't think of that as a requirement. This is a kind of next level type thing to try. But that is definitely one that now that I've done it a couple times, like it's almost kind of addicting. Like I almost want to have a frame every single time I do a live video. All right, so that's a do. Let's move on, right? We got another don't for you. And this one, you see this a lot, and it's a darn shame because I have seen some really good live videos get ruined because of this exact thing, right? You have to choose the orientation of your live video before you click on go live, right? As soon as you click on go live, even if it's loading, oh, you think, oh no, I wanted to do this, you know, horizontal versus vertical, the phone is not going to recognize that, all right? So as soon as you click that button, if you've got the phone vertically, you know, if you're holding it this way, it's going to go live that way. If you're going to do it this way, it's going live that way, no matter what happens afterwards. So it's really important that you choose that in advance, or you're going to get this effect, right? Where you see the person rotated, you know, horizontally, and then the whole video is that way, right? So a lot of times you're not even going to notice it because you didn't even realize you did it. And then your whole video and the video that lives on Facebook afterwards is horizontal versus vertical, and it's all, you know, messed up. So definitely one to keep an eye on. So again, the rule here is that you have to choose your orientation before you click on the go live button, all right? So you can have the live video pulled up, you can have all the preview on your screen, you can type out your description, and then you can rotate it. But before you click on the live button and actually start the process, you have to have chosen your orientation, all right? So just keep that in mind. And again, I've seen like some really, there was a cooking show one that I watched from one of my friends that was like 20 minutes. It was actually really good. He was super well prepared. And then it was the wrong orientation, right? So he lost almost all of his views. I watched it because he's my buddy, but he didn't get many people to stick around because it was hard to watch, right? So keep that in mind. That's definitely one to keep an eye on. All right, so another do, this one again is, you know, I would say this one's a little bit more advanced, right? So keep that in mind on this one. But a lot of people don't realize you can actually invite a second person onto your live video. So you can do a video where you have 2 people on the screen, right? So this is really cool for interview style videos, right? So especially right now, it's still, I know a lot of places have started to open up a little bit, but it is still pretty hard to get together in person with other people. And so this is a great way to create content with another person, right? So the way it works is you have to be using the selfie camera, right? So you got to be able to see the person's face on the screen. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to use it. And then what you do is you'll see at the bottom. So first of all, they have to be watching the live video. So the first thing they do is they open their phone, they start watching your live video, and then it'll show in the bottom here, this little button. And it looks like a little person and then kind of a picture. You can see it on the screen there. You click on that, and the menu on the right-hand side of your screen is going to open up, and you just add the person to the live stream, all right? And so that way, what'll happen is you'll see both people on the screen. You might want to do it horizontal because it'll fit a little bit better. Again, make sure you're horizontal before you start, but that'll fit a little bit better on the screen. And then you can have a conversation. And what I like about it is that, you know, you can have a conversation with the person, but it's also basically at the same time live to everyone else, right? So there's no kind of workarounds that you have to figure out. You're basically just recording a conversation that you're having. So that one's really cool. Again, this is one that I would not do the very first time you go live, but it is something to work up to over time, and it can be a really cool tool, especially for working with your referral partners, right? So this is a really cool way to get some of your referral partners a little bit more involved in your content creation and in the media that you're making for your business. You're able to promote them, you're able to make them look good, and it's something that they're going to remember, right? They're going to appreciate that extra attention and the fact that you helped them out with it. So once you've gotten a little bit more comfortable on camera, interviewing people is one of the most powerful tools that you have available to build relationships. I can't tell you, I've interviewed about 150 people over the past 2 years on video, a lot of it through live video. And I have now 150, strong relationships. And I actually just tested that the other day. I had an application we're submitting for a competition, and I reached out to a bunch of people who had won that competition previously that I had interviewed, and almost every single one of them responded within like a couple hours and were very happy to help me with it. So it works really, really well. So think about interviewing people. Think about making live content with someone else. I think that works really well for your business. All right. Okay, so want to pause for just a second. This does come up in every single webinar. I don't want to dwell on it for too long, but there's two things I want to mention. Number one is if you want to receive the slides from today, right? So you want to get a copy of these slides, not the replay. The replay is going to be available in a lot of places, but you want the slides themselves. You need to join our email list to get access to those. The other thing you get by being on our email list is you're actually going to get for 2 weeks, every single day, you're going to get a free video tip, right? There's no sales pitch in these video tips. It's literally just free education. We're just basically giving you a sample of what it's like to work with us in the business video school, but you're going to get those tips for 2 weeks. And then every week after that, you're going to continue getting another video tip every week, right? So you get those two things. You get video tips, a whole bunch of them, and you get the slides. There's 2 ways to sign up. You can either text just all one word, learn video, to 44222 as the phone number, right? If you prefer texting, or just go to the URL you see on the screen. And I think I have these. Let me see if I can go ahead and send this in the chat real quick. There we go. So I just sent you some links in the chat as well. And it does include the link to sign up for this if you'd like to register. I'm going to go ahead and change slides. This information is still on this next slide at the bottom in the corner there, but this is the last time you're going to see this particular information on the screen. So if you do want to sign up, go ahead and do that. All right. I wanted to keep it on this slide so we can keep moving. Yeah.
Hey, Nick, so let me, we've got a couple of examples I want to give. So let me do one of them real quick.
Go ahead.
I have no idea how to pronounce your name correctly. I think it's Ragda, maybe. Rajda, I don't know. I totally probably butchered that, but I'll give you a good hook. So he said that he's going to be doing a live video this afternoon. It's going to be educational, and it's going to be about with his lender talking about why you should get pre-qualified. So a very typical video, right? And frankly, content that's very boring. So having a good hook is even more important there. So here's a couple of ideas that I would use, and you could take this any which way you want. But here's one. Buying a house is the biggest purchase you will ever make, but also potentially the most stressful. And then you talk about what you're going to talk about. Or you could maybe not go the buying a house is the biggest purchase mark and ask a question. Do you know what is one of the most stressful things that you can do in your life? So you lead with that question, because then they're like, ooh, really, what is it? Tell me what is it? And then you can go on with saying, having a good lender to get pre-qualified for your mortgage can take a lot of that stress off the home buying process. So I hope that helps. That's just an example of one thing you could do. I could probably write about 20 of them in 5 minutes, but I think that would be a good way to go with that one. And I hope that helps. Let us know if it doesn't.
Great. No, we should do a webinar where we just have people give us video topics and we make hooks on the spot. That sounds like sounds intense. We've got to do a half an hour webinar maybe instead of a full hour.
That'd be fun.
That's a great idea, man.
That'd be a fun one. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Hey, I just wanted to ask everybody. I saw a couple people say they weren't seeing the link in the chat, so I reposted it again. Let me know if you're still not seeing it. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be going through because I am sending it. Oh, you know what? I know why. Because I'm chatting with only the panelists, so that's not good. Here we go. Let me try this one more time. There we go. Now everybody should have it. Okay, I figured my own problem out as I was asking about it. All right, so keep it moving here. We got a few more of these do's and don'ts for you. So the next one is going to be, don't bury the lead. All right. So this one's kind of related to some of what we were saying at the very beginning of the presentation. But the point here is it can be tempting, right? So you're on a live video, you can be kind of tempted to like, hey, I'm not going to really get to the climax of what I'm talking about in this video until later, right? Because I want to build up the anticipation. And that is fair, right? I mean, I definitely understand that logic. But I find a lot of people, because it's live and because as soon as they hit the button, they get flustered, they end up really burying the lead. So they basically get started and they don't tell people what the video is about at all, right? So it's really important just, again, have that hook at the beginning. But then here's one thing I will say, and this is one of those areas where I think, Jeff may have another take on this, but if you're live, right? So if your video is live and the point is to be live, right? So you're live, you're talking to people, you might want to remind people what the video is about as you're going, okay? So maybe you say it at the beginning, say, hey, we're going to talk about, ABC today, and then maybe a minute or two in, you want to say it again. You say, hey, if you're just joining us, if you're just getting on here, what we're talking about right now is ABC, remind them, right? Because otherwise they can kind of feel, especially they jump in 2 minutes in, like they're kind of lost, right? They're not going to know what you're talking about. So again, make sure you're telling people right at the beginning what the topic is, and then remind them throughout. Now, I do not, Jeff, I don't know if you want to chime in on this, because this is one where we might disagree a little bit. So is there another take on this, though, that we might want to consider?
So there's no right or wrong answers to any of this. This is just simply opinion, right? So you've got to figure out what works for you or what doesn't. But my opinion on this is, and the way I usually perform lives, actually, the reason why I perform lives is strictly for the algorithm, no other reason. I very rarely engage my audience. I think we're going to talk about that on the next slide. But for example here, I believe in staying on point, staying on task. So I typically will not interrupt myself to engage the live audience to say, here's what I'm talking about, because I feel like the people that are watching it, or the people that are watching it later, which is going to be 98% of my audience, doesn't want that. That's how I lose them. So my opinion is stay on task, don't go off task. But you could make the argument both ways. And so I just wanted to throw in, my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I mean, and I think, sort of the difference there is the video meant just for being live, right? It's not as important after the fact, or is it that you're just kind of recording a video, in which case you're going to get most of your videos after the fact, in which case obviously reminding people, what the video is about, probably not important, right? So I think there are different use cases, and you may want to adjust based on those. So that definitely makes sense. All right, moving on. Let's see what we got next here. Okay, so this is a good one. This is a big difference in live video versus pre-recorded video, is that you can respond to the comments live, right? So one of the things I think is really cool about live video, so if I was like kind of giving somebody advice on just getting started for the first time, they've never made videos before, I would encourage them to post some pre-recorded videos probably before they ever go live, so that people have a chance to get to know them a little bit, right? Because what video does is allows you to develop what's called a parasocial relationship, which is a one-sided relationship. It's what happens with a celebrity, right? So somebody's a huge fan of a celebrity, but that person's never heard of you, right? That's a one-sided relationship. It's still a real relationship, though. I mean, the feelings people have in these relationships are very much real, right? So what's cool about live video is it allows you to flip that a little bit and turn it into a two-sided relationship. So here's another area where I think Jeff and I have different opinions. I think it might be because I'm an introvert and I think he's an extrovert. So that's one, kind of fundamental difference. But in my opinion, if I'm watching a live video, if I comment, I want the person to acknowledge me, all right? I want them to have a conversation with me. If I do not comment, I don't want them to acknowledge that I'm there, right? So that's kind of we got a do and a don't on the slide here right now. And maybe Tristan can be our tiebreaker on this. But to me, it's kind of one of those things where if I comment, that's an invitation to turn it into a two-sided relationship. I ask a question, something like that, right? If I'm just viewing, because I've seen people do this, and it's happened to me, and it's part of why I put in the slide here, is I'll hop on somebody's live video for a few seconds because I'm curious to see what they're talking about. And they'll go, hey, Nick, I'm glad you're watching. And I'm like, whoa, I don't want you to acknowledge that I'm watching right now. Like, what does that mean? Like, I guess I have to admit I'm really interested in this topic now or whatever, right? Now I can't leave.
That's the way I hook you to stay.
Well, that's just it, right? You can create that pressure not to get off of the live video, I guess. So, so that one, I will say this, which is, I think it depends on the relationship. If it's somebody that you know really well and they have seen your other content, maybe they've commented on previous videos you put out. If that's the case and they jump on, then I think that's fine to acknowledge them, right? If they're an existing client, if they're somebody, friend, family, that kind of stuff. But I would be a little bit careful with kind of newer first-time viewers, because here's the thing, right? By acknowledging them, so maybe they've never interacted with you, maybe this is the first time they're seeing you. If you say their name, yes, they might hang around and watch more of that live video because now they know that you notice they're there, but they probably won't ever click on another live video that you do, all right? Because they're going to feel like, oh, I don't want to get called out again. So again, that's me. I'm an introvert, you know, so that's kind of my take on it. Jeff, you disagree, so why don't you kind of give us your take on that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I see this slide, I think back to when, a few years ago when lives were relatively new, 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember being on a few lives early on and thinking to myself, the person would acknowledge me being there, and I kind of felt special. And so now, granted, lives have evolved quite a bit. There's a heck of a lot more of them. So back then, maybe it was the newness, but I had that feeling of, man, I feel special. Did I feel obligated to stay on? Maybe a little bit, but I also felt like I wanted to stay on because, they gave me acknowledgement. So now I should listen and engage them and help their algorithm because they gave me love. So now I want to give them love back. So I think, again, you've got to figure out what's right for you, because I also talk out of the other side of my mouth. When I do live videos, I rarely engage my live audience because I stay very focused on my topic, because to me, it's just another video. I don't look at it as a live video. I'm just doing it for the algorithm. So look at it two different ways. Every once in a while, I'll glance at who's popping on and I'll mention their names. But for the most part, I don't, even though I also say that I think people like the acknowledgement, but I understand what Nick's saying because I think like an extrovert, not an introvert, because I'm not an introvert. So I don't know exactly what they're thinking.
Well,
So it's all things to think about.
That's right. I think, but when someone asks a question or makes a comment that you think can make your video even that much better, it's important to acknowledge it. But at the very beginning, when you're doing this, you probably won't even have time to look at the comments. You'll be a little bit more nervous, anxious. You'll be like, oh, there were comments.
Right.
So as you get used to it, though, like us, I could just go on at the same time I'm talking and be like, oh, that's a good one. Let me tell you about this one, right? So as you get more comfortable, I think it's important to acknowledge the important ones, but it's going to take some time.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah. That's something I've noticed about like Zoom in particular, is that when I first started doing these webinars, there was no chance I was looking at the comments or the chats while presenting. And, now I'm like, oh yeah, there's these questions coming, it's kind of getting easier as you go. So that's definitely a fair point. I do agree that like when you first do these things, just focus on executing, right? Don't try to get fancy in terms of all the extra engagement and all that stuff, right? Cool. So let's see, what do we got? This is a good one. All right. Definitely do check your internet connection before you go live, right? Very easy to overlook. Okay. This is one. I've been doing I was doing a live show for about 2 years, every single Friday, interviewing a different startup founder. And this was our Achilles heel sometimes, right? And it is crazy how much, you can be in the same location, same Wi-Fi connection, and depending on a whole bunch of factors that you have no control over, your internet speed can be substantially lower or substantially higher, okay? So it's really important to check it before you go live. You don't need you don't need a lot of bandwidth to do a live video. It's pretty well compressed, but you'd be surprised how many times you're going to run into a situation where you really just don't have enough bandwidth. So, what are some situations where you might run out of strength? Number one is if there's a lot of people there, right? So if you're in an event or you're in a room where there's a lot of people connected to the Wi-Fi, that's going to cause you problems, right? The same thing can even happen with your cell phone connection. There's enough people who are connecting to that local cell phone tower, that will also slow down the cell connection. So you take some of these things for granted, but you probably experienced, you go to a sports event, something like that, we're in a stadium, and nowadays they've started to put cell phone boosters in these places, but even with those, a lot of times you can't get much of a signal, right? So if you ever tried to go live at like a concert or a baseball game or something, you probably ran into this problem. So you can go to speedtest.net, Google, if you just search speed test, Google has one built into their search results. You can just click run test on it. Usually it takes like 30 seconds. It's going to tell you your upload and your download speed. What you're looking for is the upload speed, and you need a minimum of 3 megabits a second. Ideally, you have 5 or really 10. If you have more than 10, you should be golden. You should have a really nice, clear, crisp live stream. But keep this in mind, if you have a lower connection, it's not going to necessarily prevent you from going live. But it's almost even worse, which is it'll let you go live and then it will cut in and out and the quality will be really low and people will have a hard time seeing you and what you're doing or even hearing you if it's really, really low. So keep that in mind. It's not going to automatically say, hey, you can't go live. It just might be a really bad live video, right? So definitely check this if you can. If you can plug into a wall, if you can plug directly into your Ethernet and you can stream through a computer camera, right? If you can do it through a webcam like we're doing this right now, and you can plug into the wall directly into the Ethernet, you have a much better chance of having a stable, steady connection. Wi-Fi is going to be a lot more hit or miss, and so will cell connections, right? So make sure you test it in every single case. But that can be one that, especially if you got a really cool video and it's a one-time opportunity and you don't test this and you go live and the thing ends up being, total garbage because of it, you're going to really wish you had tested it, right? So just think about that next time, especially if it's an important video or if you're in a crowded location. All right,
Nick,
so
let's roll through some questions.
Let's say there's probably a bunch of questions.
Bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's roll through them. I'm going to ask some of you guys. I'll answer some of them. Manuel, I actually keep bringing up the algorithm. What we hear and what we read across most platforms is it's about 4 times the engagement on live videos. And the reason for that is because the algorithms favor live videos. Therefore, they're putting them on more of your audience's feed. So it's going to be seen more often. Therefore, it gets about 4 times the engagement. That also applies to Instagram as well, and probably the other platforms. I don't know if Tristan, you have anything to add to that because you know the data better than I do.
No, I think you guys are hitting it up all good, man. Good.
Okay, cool. Nick, when you made your video for this webinar, were you holding the camera or was it mounted on something?
That was a gimbal. So yeah, you probably noticed if you saw that video, it's very smooth, right? And I was using a DJI Osmo Mobile 3. That's the new gimbal that they released a few months ago. I love it. Super. It's actually it's a significant advancement on the design of a phone gimbal. So if you're looking for one, I think you get it for like $120. It's pretty reasonable. But yeah, that was a phone gimbal. So you're never going to hold your phone and have it look that smooth. That's for sure.
Tristan, what webcam do you recommend? I use the camera that comes with my laptop. But if you guys have recommendations on webcams, what do you got?
Yeah, I like the Logitech Brio. It's really good. It's probably the best one out there right now. But it's also hard to get because of the whole pandemic situation. So that's Logitech.
Awesome.
Logitech, and then Brio is Brio.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Nick, can you make frames in Facebook desktop?
Yeah, so the way a frame works is it's going to work through the camera, the Facebook camera. So you can make it on, and you actually kind of have to make it on a desktop style computer. But anywhere you can open up the Facebook camera, you can use it, right? So if you have a camera associated with your desktop that will allow you to use that particular functionality, then you're fine. But most of the time, you're going to open it on your phone, right? So you're going to make it on your computer, take the link, and I would just email it to yourself so that you have it saved in your email. And then anytime you want, you just open that up, you click the link, and it's going to automatically open up your Facebook camera app with the. And that's by far the easiest way to do it that I found.
Awesome. Paul has a questions about adding and tagging someone on Facebook Live so it shows up on their pages without them coming on camera. Paul, generally speaking, when you tag somebody anymore, you're just alerting them. The algorithms have wised up in the sense that you're not going to necessarily get more reach just because you tag people. So when you see somebody on Facebook, for example, that tags 100 people in a post, that's not helping their reach because the algorithm's smarter than that. So the only reason you really are tagging somebody, and this applies again to most of the platforms, you're really just alerting that person that you did something or there's a relevance to the tag. In other words, I have a photo or a video with Nick. I'm obviously going to tag Nick in the video, right? That's basically, I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, but that's my opinion on tagging.
Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. I think you're right. So do we want
to? Yeah, go ahead. We'll come back to them.
Maybe do a couple slides, and then I know we got a lot of questions this time, but you don't want to keep people too long. So yeah, next one I want to cover real quick is the last screen. So when you finish a live video, a lot of people kind of skip over this particular screen, but I just want to mention what it is and what it does for you. So you can see the screen, a snapshot of it on the right-hand side there. But first of all, it's going to allow you to, whether or not you want to post the video. So technically you can go live and then say, don't actually post this video, right? So that is one option you have. So if you have something you want it to be kind of exclusively live, you can do that. You do want to upload in HD, all right? So this is a big factor here. Your video, when you are live, is only as high quality as the internet connection you're using, right? So if your internet connection isn't perfect, and sometimes even if it is, you know, it doesn't always come through 100%, the video that you put out on Facebook is not full HD. It's going to be whatever it was allowed to stream in, right? So if you click the upload an HD button, that's going to take so your phone has actually saved a copy of the live video until you leave the screen. Once you leave the screen, if you don't save it, it's going to delete it from your phone, but it is currently sitting on your phone. So if you click the upload an HD button, it's going to upload that version and it will replace the pre-existing live version, and so the video will be fully HD. So even if it didn't stream perfectly, you can still upload an HD and you're going to have a video that lives on your page that looks good, right? The third one I want to mention is if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, and I think actually may have done them backwards or out of order on the slides here, but in the bottom left-hand corner, you see the save button, right? You get the little down arrow and it says save, right? What that's going to do is going to take that copy, the HD copy of the video, and it's going to save it to your phone. So this is really helpful if you want to reuse this video on a different platform, right? So you go live on Facebook, you do something cool, and you go, you know what? I'd love to share that on Instagram. I'd love to share that on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it might be. Put it up on YouTube. If you save it, if you click the save button, it's going to save a copy of that video. If you do not click the save button and you click either delete or share, which are the two exit buttons at the bottom there, you're not going to be able to get it back, all right? So just keep that in mind. You do have to save it. Make sure you click that button. Once you move on, you can't come back and save a copy because at that point it's deleted from your phone, all right? And then when you're done, at the bottom, you either click share, and obviously it's going to post the permanent version of the video on Facebook, or you click delete, right? If you click delete, then the video stops existing entirely, and only the people that saw it live will ever know it was there, all right? So keep that in mind, depending on which one of those two you want to do. All right, so we got another pause here for another quick slide. After we did some of the previous webinars, we had a few people that were basically asking us if we could come do a presentation for their brokerage or for their team. So I figured we would just make it, pretty straightforward for you. So if you're a broker, or if you're a part of a brokerage that you think would benefit from seeing this exact webinar, we are happy to do these for free for brokerages or for larger teams, that kind of organization. Even if it's not specifically real estate, if you've got a insurance company, you got some insurance agents that could benefit from this. We're happy to do these as many times as we need to. Okay, so if you would like to set us up to present this webinar or any other kinds of webinars that you've seen us do, you just want to text the word webinar to that phone number you see on the screen, and then I'll go ahead and get you set up there. This information is also on the next slide, so I'm going to move on so we can keep presenting. But if you do want to sign up to have us do this webinar at some point, and it wouldn't necessarily be all three of us, but if you want to have one of us do it, text webinar to 636-541-7651. All right, like I said, that's going to be, that should be down there. Oh, there it is. Okay, it took a second to load. All right, so moving on. We got a couple more do's and don'ts for you, and then we will get you out of here on time. The next one is don't get off topic, all right? Now, this is one that is actually a lot harder than you would realize, all right? Now, what people think is going to happen when they go live is they think that if they run out of things to say, or if they've delivered their point, they're just going to end their video, okay? But what actually happens is you go live, you get a little bit flustered because it's obviously kind of nerve-wracking being live. And what do we do when we're flustered? Well, a lot of us just talk and talk and talk, all right? So that's a lot of times what happens is that we get kind of nervous. Oh, what am I doing? And then you get all over the place, right? Because basically a lot of us are very uncomfortable with silence, right? So even the idea of kind of pausing and collecting your thoughts, if you pause for 1 second during a live video, to you it feels like 10, and to everybody else they hardly notice it, right? So you can train yourself not to do this, but it's very easy to start kind of meandering off topic, right? To start elaborating or telling a side story, or talking about, what you're doing later that day, because you can't remember what your next point was, right? So number one is to just get comfortable with the idea of pausing a little bit. It's totally fine to have a short pause in a video. I mean, actually, I was watching something the other day that was talking about some of the greatest minds in the world. So it was talking specifically about Elon Musk and who was the other one? Steve Jobs. And it was talking about how they have these videos of these guys where they actually paused before responding to a question for like 15 seconds, which is an eternity, right? Like in public speaking, that's forever. And then they came back with like a really, really well thought out answer. So it's totally fine to pause. 15 seconds, pretty extreme, obviously, but don't be afraid to pause, regather your thoughts, look at your notes, look down at the pad of paper you have your notes on if that's what you need to do, and then stay on topic, right? So I'd much rather see a live video where somebody ends up being a little bit shorter, but it's to the point and I get exactly what they're talking about, than to see something that ends up being 10 minutes long because they meander all over the place, right? You got to remember that what's happening is that people are every second deciding if they want to stick around, right? It's just like these webinars. You're deciding at every moment, is this still valuable? Am I still getting, entertainment or value here? And you're competing with all the other posts on social media. So if you're not keeping people's interest, if you're not keeping them, entertained or educated or whatever the point is, they're going to get curious if there's something else that they should be seeing, and they're going to leave, right? So stay on topic, have some notes if you need to, and try to keep people engaged as you go.
And Nick,
All
will
right,
you type in your gimbal into the chat? There's a couple people that asked for that.
Yeah, sure. And actually, while I do that, Jeff, I know this is another big one, pet peeve of yours, is looking into the camera lens. I don't know if you want to talk about this for a couple seconds.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so I did an intro video for this, or a promo video for this live about this. And it's a common mistake because most of us do, and myself included, I shoot my videos with the screen facing me. And so the natural inclination is to look at yourself on the camera, but that's not looking into the eye of the camera. The eye in the camera, as this image shows, is up here at the top of your camera. And so what I did long time ago when I was training my eye where to look was I would put a little Post-it note or a little arrow or something that would alert my attention to where the eye of the camera is, because it's no different than if you're talking to somebody in person, that if you don't look at them in the eye, and again, you don't stare at someone in the eye the entire time you talk to them, at least most of us don't, we look back and forth, but when you look at them, when you make eye contact, you make eye contact, not chest or breast contact, not shoulder contact, not waistline contact. You look at them in the eyes, and it's no different than when you're shooting a video. You're more authentic and more real to your audience, and you can I guess, what's the best way to say it, Nick? You kind of engage them, or you
well, it's eye contact.
Make yourself more real when you're talking to them.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's like, yeah, it's exactly. I mean, video almost perfectly simulates talking to someone in person. Your your brain doesn't know the difference. So when you're not looking into the camera, you're not making eye contact. And think about when you've had conversations where somebody looked at the table the whole time. It's not a lot of fun, right? So yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Cool. That's good. That's good. I liked when we did our little, actually, if you sign up for our email tips list, you'll see a video Jeff and I did where we exaggerated this. We were basically we simulated having a real conversation. I was looking down and I was looking up over his shoulder. And it was crazy how far away from Jeff I had to look for it to look like you do on the camera when you look at yourself. You would think it's like, oh, it's 2 inches difference. But the way it translates, it looks like you're looking several feet over from that person, or literally down. It's really, it is very bad, right? So it's a pretty extreme thing that you probably want to do whatever you can to avoid. I mean, you can glance at yourself here and there. That's absolutely fine. Check your hair, that sort of thing. But don't dwell on yourself. All right. And then here's another one, another don't for you, which is don't lose your energy throughout the video. This is a universal rule, but I think it's really important with live video because people are making that split-second decision at every time to jump on or off, which again, they always do. But the difference with a live video is that number is shown in the corner, right? So if there's 10 people on your video and your energy starts to wane and then it goes to 9 and then 8 and then 7, everybody else who decides if they want to jump on sees that, right? So they're gonna see that. It's almost kind of like a public accounting of how energetic you are. I actually look at the number of people who are live during my videos to keep a gauge of how my energy is, right? So if I get up and, oh man, I've got 10 people watching, which it may sound like a small number, but for a live video, that's actually pretty good in most cases. I've got 10 people watching, great. Let me see if I can get that up to 12 or 15. All of a sudden it dips to 8 and I'm like, oh crap, I must have kind of dropped energy, or I must have, dwelled too long on a particular point. So you're getting this kind of constant feedback. So, start with enthusiasm, start with energy, build up your, if you need to do a little jog in place or something to kind of get yourself pumped up, that's fine. You might want to work on your voice inflection. We actually do exercises on voice inflection in the school because of how important it is, right? I mean, you can use the way you deliver words to keep people engaged. If you look at a lot of the most successful YouTubers or even like TV personalities, I mean, they have a lot of emotion in what they're saying, right? Sometimes they're really loud, sometimes really soft. Like they do a lot of variance there to keep you interested. And so one of the models that I think is really useful for this is think of these as an infomercial, right? So don't use the structure of an infomercial. You're not necessarily selling something, but think of the energy in an infomercial, right? Like think of like the late great Billy Mays, right? Like I always loved Billy Mays because the guy was just over the top at all times. I think he wore a shirt that was not too much of a different color than this. I guess I'm modeling myself after Billy Mays in some ways, right? But like just always so much energy, and like you couldn't stop watching the guy. It didn't matter what he's selling. And when it comes to video, you want to be the same way. Like you want people to be watching you and not maybe as concerned about the topic. If you can be that enthusiastic, and again, you're not going to do this day one, but it's something to work your way up to, right? So keep the energy up, keep it fun, keep it entertaining, and you're going to get a lot more people watching it actually live, which I think is really important here.
Hey, Nick, this is a good segue into a question too, where somebody said, is there a certain time of day to do live videos? And my answer to any time anybody says, is there a right time of day to post, or is the right time of day to go live? The answer is you can find that somewhere, but no. Generally, no. Do it when the inspiration strikes you, especially for live videos, because usually you're in a moment, you think of something, quickly jot down your notes, and then go for it because it's fresh on your mind. If you wait and you go back later to do it, a lot of times you'll lose that inspiration or you'll lose that energy because you're not in the moment. It's not hot on the brain. And so my opinion is with all content, get it out there, get it out of your brain into social media, because the more the merrier. You have nothing to lose, so get it out there. So the answer to that question, in my opinion, there is no right time. Just get it out there. And again, remember, probably 95+% of your audience is watching your live video after you already put it out there, so it doesn't really matter. And so that's just my opinion. I don't know if you fellas have another opinion on that.
No, I agree. I think you have to earn the right to even ask those kinds of questions. I think we often ask those things when we're just procrastinating, right? So, how can I do this? Ideally, and the point, as Jeff says, is like, just do it, as Nike says, just get out there, do it. And what happens over time as you build an actual audience, you can start to analyze that actual audience. Because if we give you a tip, we say you should post at this time of day, but for whatever reason, you have family and friends in a community that tend to get on Facebook at a different time, then that advice might not be good for you, right? So that kind of stuff is really kind of personalized to the person. And I think it's just better just to get out there, as Jeff said, and just do it, get it done, make progress, and then you can start to think about that stuff later. Okay, so I think we're getting close to the end here. We got a couple more do's and don'ts for you. So this one I think is this is a more advanced option, right? But once you start to get comfortable with your standard live stream, this is a huge opportunity, all right? Trying live stream software and trying to do stuff that's just that much more elaborate. So with live streaming software, you can do stuff that looks like a television show, right? You can create what looks like, news broadcasts. You can have the scroller at the bottom of the screen. You can have pre-recorded videos that you show in the middle of a live video, right? You can have transitions. You can switch shots. And that's really cool, right? You can have an interview with somebody where you're able to actually switch cameras back and forth. You're able to crop in and out, all this kind of stuff. We've been using this stuff for years, and it will create videos that are very eye-catching, right? It's going to create something that people are generally not seeing on their newsfeed. So I don't want to dwell on this too long because this is really a more advanced kind of thing to get to. But as you get more comfortable, as you get more confident making live videos, you might want to consider some of the software. Now, if you want to start with the cheap or free version, I would recommend Open Broadcaster Software, often called OBS. It's a full, broadcaster suite type of thing. It is free, but it is complex, right? And that's a common trade-off, is you're going to have something that's kind of open source or free, but it's going to be complicated. It's going to take some learning curve. Or you could do something like Amiibo, where you're actually going to buy a dedicated live streaming camera, and it comes with some software. And I think there's a subscription attached to it too, but it's much simpler, right? So that's always kind of the trade-off here. Is you want to spend some money and save yourself some time, or do you have time to invest, in which case, an OBS might be a good fit. Now, what we use is called Wirecast. So we use a piece of software called Wirecast, and it's not cheap. I think it cost us, and this was on sale, it was like $700, all right? So not a place to start, probably one of the most expensive things we bought within our video career, but it is extremely complex and robust, and you can do almost anything you can imagine while live. And that's kind of a goal. If you really get serious about video in your business and you want to really get to a point where video is driving a lot of results for you, sometimes adding these kinds of tools can be really useful. All right. Oh, okay. Well, I think that was our last one there. So that was our do's and don'ts. All right. So we do have about 5 minutes left. Here's what I want to do. At this point, if you are still here, I appreciate you sticking around with us till the end. I don't want to waste your time, all right? So if you feel like, hey, I'm making videos all the time already, you're pretty comfortable on camera, you've made video a regular part of your business, then at this point, you can log off. I don't want to waste any of your time. I appreciate you being here. If, however, like pretty much all of our members and students, if you feel like, maybe you've never made any videos, there's a lot of people out there that still haven't done any videos, or if you are somebody who's made a few, but you're still not completely comfortable, you're still kind of wondering, what am I doing here? What should my strategy be behind my videos? How do I improve on these? Where else in my business can I start utilizing video? Because you can basically use video in all kinds of different aspects of your business. If that is you, if you have some of those questions, we're going to spend just about 5 minutes and just tell you a little bit about the Business Video School. All right. So again, I don't want to pitch you or talk to you about what we do here. If it's not a good fit, go ahead and jump off. If you do want to know more though, go ahead and hang around for a few seconds and I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing in the school. So here's kind of the bottom line. A lot of you have probably been hearing this, and I am kind of curious. If you want to let us know in the chat, how often or how many times have you heard that you need to be using video in your business, all right? Most of the people I've asked this question to have said probably at least 100 times. Every conference I go to, every few weeks from my broker, all my, hear other agents tell me this all the time, right? And my question is always, we've been hearing this for years. We've been doing Zoom meetings. We've been engaging with video content on the internet for years. So why are so many people not actually doing it yet, right? What is it that's holding those people back? And the truth is, there is a lot. It's a very, very complex set of skills. The truth is, like right now, what we're experiencing is a shift in communication. We're all basically being exposed for the first time in human history to easily accessible video communication, right? Even just a few years ago, it was much more complicated. Now it's very easy. We all have an HD camera in our pocket everywhere we go. However, unlike the transition to other forms of communication, like when email emerged, right? So you go back 20, 25 years ago, email was a big shift, right? But it didn't make people super nervous like video does, right? You didn't feel like terrified when you sent that first email that it was going to embarrass you, right? It was just a slight step in a new direction. But video is different. Video is a substantial change, but it's also a much better form of communication. You can accomplish a lot with video that you can't do with other forms of communication. So here's the problem, right? This is what we've kind of surveyed our students and found is that if you look at this list of skills, this is just scratching the surface. There are so many different things to pick up, to understand, to try to sort of implement into yourself or your business. And it's a lot, right? So what we did is what happened, the reason we have the Business Video School in the first place is we were making videos for real estate agents for the past 3 years. And we were making them really nice, social media marketing videos. They're spending, a good chunk of money with us every single month. And what we couldn't figure out is why they weren't making other videos. Why were they not doing Facebook Lives? Why weren't they posting more on social media? Why were they not, sending video messages to their clients or using video to convert their leads? The only kind of video they were ever doing was just the ones we were making for them. And what we realized was because there was all those other skills, right? There's all this other stuff they had to learn. And so we went out and we started looking for, hey, what are the options here? So if I want to send one of my clients out and say, hey, go do this thing, and you're going to learn how to start being better on camera. You're going to learn where to post your videos. You're going to learn all this other stuff, right? There was a few options. Number one, they could buy individual courses. So right now, if you want to learn video, you can go out and you can buy a course on how to do YouTube videos, right? You can buy a course on Snapchat, and I'm sure there's stuff, emerging for TikTok. Every single one of those courses is probably at least $200. A lot of them are over $800 a piece, and they only teach you one particular thing, right? The other problem is there's a lot of overlaps. You take one course on YouTube where they give you some tips on how to record a video, and then you take another course on Facebook and they give you the same tips on how to record a video and just sort of waste your time, right? So we didn't like that solution. We felt like that wasn't really good. You can obviously hire a videographer and work with them, but as we had already seen, it's expensive, it's complicated, right? You can spend hours on YouTube watching stuff. I mean, you can watch webinars like this till you're blue in the face and you're gonna learn some stuff, right? But what we really ultimately realized, and the reason we built the school, is we started to realize there needs to be a full-scale, comprehensive option, right? There needs to be a place that business owners and in our specialties, real estate agents, but I think this really ultimately applies to all business owners or salespeople for that matter. There needs to be a place that you can go and learn video, learn everything, learn all the basic skills, learn to get comfortable and confident on camera, learn where to post your videos, what to do with them after you create them, all that kind of stuff. And it didn't exist, right? So that's why we created the school. And that's what I want to just kind of mention to you as we kind of close things up here. So what's included in a business video school membership, right? So we didn't like the idea of just a single course. We actually, we could have created just a course or a couple courses and sold them individually, but we already have, like at this point, I think we have 4 different courses we've developed. We got another 4 that we're working on. There's like 25 like in development down the road. There's a lot to cover, right? So when you join Business Video School, you get access to everything, every single one of our courses. Anything we've already recorded is already available in the campus. You can go in and watch it whenever you want, right? You can also take courses with your fellow students. So if you want something that's a little bit more accountable, you can sign up for courses where we will have you come every week, 1 hour. So it's not a big commitment, 1 hour with your fellow classmates, and you're gonna watch a training together. We're gonna do some exercises. We're gonna assign you some homework. It's very structured, right? We have one-off workshops. So sometimes there's particular things like, hey, there's a kind of video that's really popular right now on Facebook. Let's talk about how to make your own version, right? And we do a workshop on things like that. We have weekly Q&A sessions. So unlike a lot of online learning, if you have questions, you come to our Q&A sessions and you're gonna get answers, right? We do accountability calls. We've got equipment and software demos, influencer case studies, products and service discounts. I don't have time to go over all that today, but there's a whole bunch of stuff, with the idea being that if you are a part of the school, you are going to learn to use video in your business, and we're going to keep you up to date on the trends, right? You're not going to get caught off guard by a new software or a new platform or a new kind of video that you should be making, because we're learning all of this for you, and then we're sharing it with you we're learning by experimenting, right? You see, Jeff and me and Tristan making experimental videos all the time, right? So again, I don't want to dwell on this too long. Thank you for giving me 5 minutes or so to talk about it. If you are interested, I would really encourage you to get signed up on bizvideoschool.com. The cost is $97 a month. It's a month-to-month membership, right? So you do not have to commit for more than 1 month. If you want, you can sign up for 1 month, go in, watch every single piece of content we have as a crash course, and then leave. And you only spent 97 bucks, right? Personally, I wouldn't recommend that. You're gonna get overwhelmed, right? So maybe not the best strategy. But if you want to do that, you can. What I kind of encourage you to do is get signed up, give it a month or two, and just try it out. Take a couple workshops, enroll in one of our courses. Check out some of our influencer interviews. We just posted a really cool interview yesterday with Malcolm Lawson, who's a YouTube expert. He actually makes $100,000 in GCI every year off of YouTube. All right. That was incredible. I learned a lot just interviewing this guy, right? So there's that kind of stuff available. And, you don't have to watch many of those to pick up some really useful tips. So again, go check it out. What you're going to see on our website, you're going to see some testimonials. You're going to see all the outlines of all the courses, some video explanations of what's going on. So again, I don't have a ton of time to talk today, but I would definitely go check it out and get enrolled. We have, if you're interested in live video, I think I showed this at the very first slide. In about 2 weeks, we are doing a workshop on live video, right? So if you're curious about live video, you want to continue to learn on it, it is something we're doing here in a couple weeks. So I would go ahead and get signed up today. Just to wrap things up, I do have a couple testimonial quotes. I just want to show you from some of our earlier students, kind of what they feel they've gotten out of it. The biggest thing I will tell you right up front that most of our students are saying is that they are actually making videos, all right? That's all that really matters, right? We're not making them make perfect videos. We're just getting them started, and then we're working on those skills over time, right? So if you're somebody who's been dragging your feet, you've been thinking you should make videos in your business, and you've been kind of holding off on it, and you've been kind of coming up with reasons not to do it, you're a perfect fit for us. We would love to help you, right? If you're somebody who's made a couple videos, but you lost your steam, I've seen that a whole bunch of times too. You know, I was putting out videos for 2 weeks or a couple months, and I haven't done it in 6 months because I got busy. We're going to help you too, right? You just sign up for our accountability calls every week for half an hour. You give us your goal. We hold you accountable to it, right? So if that's what you need, we're there to help you. We're really trying to make sure we have something available for everybody. Just again, a few more quotes from students who are in the school right now. So these are people who are literally in the school at this very moment, just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like and kind of what people are getting out of it. And that's pretty much all I got, right? So I know we are a couple minutes past at this point. So by all means, if you got to run, I totally understand. If you do have any questions, I know there was a bunch that we had in the chat. I don't think we were able to get to all of them because we had quite a few today. I will hang around. I'll try to answer a few more of those if we do have a little bit more time. But feel free to continue asking them. And, you know, hopefully we'll see you again on the next webinar. So I appreciate your time.
I think we covered most of them, man.
Yeah.
Everybody have a wonderful 4th of July as well. Another wonderful holiday weekend. It's hopefully you can get out of your house safely.
Right. Yeah. We did have a question. Are the courses delivered on Zoom or on Facebook? The answer is primarily Facebook. We actually do use both. So if we have a situation where it's important to have a two-way conversation, we use Zoom. And if it's something where that's not as important, then you're going to be watching it on Facebook. But so things like our accountability calls and our Q&A sessions, those are always done through Zoom because we want to have a two-way conversation possible. So cool. Any last
That's it.
any more
I love
questions
you guys.
in here? So good to go. All right.
Good informative. Thanks, guys.
All right. Cool. Talk to you later.
Good
See you
times.
next week.